Successful supplier segmentation can help drive and deliver increased value from the supply chain and improve overall shareholder value. Yet, there remains some confusion regarding the definition of supplier segmentation and how to best implement it within the procurement process. As companies look to segment their supply base, we often hear comments like, "They're one of our largest suppliers and we do a lot of business with them. Perhaps we should have a strategic relationship." Or, "They're a leader in their industry. Surely we would benefit if we had a strategic relationship." We also hear, "They have strong relationships within our company, and they know how to play the relationship card when they need to." Or, "We are locked into their specs. It is too hard to change, and if we have any issues, it will surely result in problems and disruptions throughout our company." On the surface, any one of these scenarios could be seen as a potential rationale for considering strategic relationships with these suppliers, but they are not enough. It is important to dig deeper to determine what is driving these perceptions. Is bigger always better? Do we need to be engaged in an unbalanced relationship to ensure supply? What are your choices? What are your alternatives? Many organizations tend to view supplier segmentation as a separate and discrete activity. They focus on the specific supplier or suppliers and the amount of business and related spend. If we spend a lot of money with them, they must be important, and if they are important, they should be viewed as a strategic partner. All suppliers play a role in helping deliver value to end customers in terms of the products and services they provide. Only a select few are in a position to help create competitive advantage that puts clear water between you and your competition. Supplier segmentation is a process of differentiating the supply base to determine the appropriate level of engagement and the resource commitment with specific suppliers. People think about segmentation and even plan it, but many don't follow through. Why? Too many suppliers tend to bubble up to the top, putting significant demand on senior management's time. The keys are determining the appropriate level of engagement and the appropriate level of resource commitment to effectively manage the supply base. Most companies' supplier lists tend to run into the thousands, and even applying the 80-20 rule does not focus efforts enough to effectively engage with every one of them. You need to determine which suppliers to engage, the type of engagement required, and the resource commitment and level needed. The higher the level of segmentation, the greater the constraints in terms of senior level resources. Therefore, the ROI and link to maximizing the value return for the effort required needs to be clearly defined and evident. The planned and efficient deployment of resources based on the optimal relationship with specific suppliers helps deliver more consistent supplier performance, innovation, and overall lower total cost. Resource capability is essential, both in your organization and at the supplier. Individuals need to have the skill sets required to effectively engage suppliers at the defined segmentation level. Likewise, the suppliers need to demonstrate their ability to perform at the required segmentation level. Segmentation needs to be aligned with the category strategy and take into consideration cultural fit and the alignment with business objectives, in addition to your underlying business requirements. The involvement of key stakeholders plays a critical role to ensure suppliers' actions and behaviors are well aligned and consistent with your business goals. It is important to start by clearly defining and establishing the differences between strategic, business critical, and important. More often than not, confusion and blurred definitions result in supplier segmentation that is not aligned with the overall needs and goals of the business. Unilaterally assigning the strategic label to business critical or important supplier relationships is a recipe for disaster. Strategic refers to those goods or services that provide either competitive advantage or opportunities to create and drive revenue growth and increased value. In looking to develop strategic relationships with suppliers, the key is whether your organization and the supplier are willing and capable of engaging in a truly strategic relationship. Business critical refers to those goods and services that play an integral part in enabling you to provide your end products or services to your customers and are difficult to source due to either supply market difficulties, specifications, and/or limited spend. The tendency is to want to enter into strategic relationships here, but the reality is that it will not be good for your organization. In the vast majority of cases, the business critical items are a result of the way the organization has approached the market to source the particular good or service. If the item is truly critical, the focus needs to be on assurance of supply and risk mitigation. There is no guarantee that a strategic relationship will successfully address either of these issues. In these situations, the balance of power resides with the supplier, Therefore, unless you can find ways to change it, you remain at a disadvantage. Important represents the vast array of goods and services readily available in the supply market, routinely purchased to make end products and support the infrastructure of the manufacturing or service operation. The number of segmentation levels and associated labels varies widely from company to company, but tends to be limited to either 3 or 4 levels, with strategic or Tier 1 being at the top. The actual number of suppliers engaged at this level is few and limited. When considering a strategic relationship, determine how the supplier's products or services impacts the business regardless of spend, supplier size, influence, or relationships. Ask yourself, will a strategic relationship with this supplier help your company achieve competitive advantage? Will it help achieve growth in your business? Will it attract new customers or improve profitability? If you can't answer yes to these types of questions, it is unlikely there will be a sufficient return on the time and investment required to build and sustain a successful strategic relationship. The next level down is many times referred to as either preferred or managed or Tier 2, and usually represents less than 5% of the supply base. The most basic level of segmentation is where the vast majority of suppliers, usually greater than 90%, reside. Some companies further split this level into 2 levels, hence the 3 versus 4 levels of the segmentation model, whereby one segmentation level focuses primarily on performance and the other on tactical engagement. It should be noted, the higher the level of segmentation, the greater the mutual dependency and length of commitment, and the need for an ROI that maximizes the value return for the effort required. The sourcing strategy informs category segmentation, and supplier segmentation should be aligned with the category strategy. The supplier's ability to perform at the segmentation level required is critical. If they are not capable today, you need to ask what actions are needed to get them to the required level. Procurement organizations deliver ongoing value through an effective and efficient supplier management process. Segmentation is a keystone of supplier management. Depending on the segmentation level required, the focus, interaction, and level of resource will differ. Supplier segmentation is not a one-and-done type activity. Depending on where you start, the process is more of a continuum that needs to be refreshed on a periodic basis. The timing for the refresh will depend in part on the category positioning and the work that is being done to deliver successful results.